President Trump giving a primetime address on Iran last night where he stated that the war is winding down and the U.S. will complete all military objectives shortly.
All right, Jacqui Heinrich joins us live from the White House with the latest. Good morning, Jacqui.
Good morning to you guys. The president made his case to justify this military operation, detailing the urgency of Iran's nuclear threat, framing the short-term, or the spike rather, in energy prices as short-term and the American economy as able to absorb it. And while he described this conflict as nearly over, there was also an implicit threat of escalation, leaving open the question of whether he could send in ground troops or whether victory can be declared without extracting Iran's stockpiles of enriched uranium.
I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong.
The president said the U.S. is negotiating with a new, more reasonable regime, but rattled off targets if no deal is reached, including Iran's oil and energy plants, which he said would be hit simultaneously. Analysts say it was the kind of speech he should have delivered at the outset to build more support. The Wall Street Journal editorial board writing, media coverage of the war in the U.S. has been so relentlessly negative that Iran's leaders may really believe that they are winning. But Mr. Trump assured them he plans to continue the war to devastating effect if they don't abandon their nuclear and terror ambitions. He made no offer of a ceasefire. Trump also urged countries that depend on oil from the Strait to instead buy from the U.S. and build what he called delayed courage to secure the critical shipping lane. Notably, the president did not directly criticize NATO or announce any U.S. withdrawal from the alliance, which he suggested in an interview yesterday was beyond reconsideration. Finnish President Alexander Stubb, with whom President Trump has a close relationship, posted ahead of the speech, spoke with real Donald Trump POTUS, constructive discussion and exchange of ideas on NATO, Ukraine, and Iran. Problems are there to be resolved pragmatically. It's not clear if that conversation may have staved off some harsh words from the president pointed at NATO guys.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Jacqui, Italy says you can't use our air bases. Spain says you can't use our air bases. Macron says militarily we're not going to be victorious. The UK is trying to put something together, but there's really no rally to our side in any way.
Yeah, the UK Prime Minister is leading a virtual summit today of 35 countries to try to build some kind of consensus on military or diplomatic efforts to reopen the Strait, obviously a response to that strong pressure from President Trump. But you heard Secretary Rubio say on Hannity the other night that, you know, if these countries are not going to allow the U.S. to use those bases when it needs to, then NATO is a one-way street, and the troops are only in Europe for the defense of Europe, not for American interests. That's the message here from the White House. So when the Secretary General comes here next week to meet with President Trump, I assume will be talking in great detail about that.
Yeah, I just think there's a big difference between using our bases, which we help construct, and not helping at all in the mission. Thanks, Jacqui.
Thanks, Jacqui.
Thank you.
And I think they should realize, because I'm sure they will say there's a treaty which is approved by the Senate and Congress, but there's only one commander-in-chief, meaning the treaty can exist, but the president is in command of the armed forces. So do they think they're going to be able to command the troops to go into there? Absolutely not.
So what's interesting, too, is that today the UAE is going to the United Nations and asking for condemnation from the Security Council for closing the Strait. So our allies in NATO are not helping us open the Strait, but the Gulf states are saying this is illegal. And actually, this is a time in which the UN sees this outlaw behavior by Iran as a problem.
It's a realignment.
Yeah. Now to Jonathan Hunt, who is live in Tel Aviv as Iran has fired missiles into Tel Aviv as Israel observes Passover. Jonathan.
Brian, good morning to you guys. Israel was fully expecting and was braced for an Iranian barrage of missiles to mark the beginning of the Jewish holiday of Passover, and that is exactly what happened. Iranian missile launchers firing missile after missile in the direction of central, southern and northern Israel overnight and throughout Wednesday. And some of those missiles and the cluster bombs attached to them did make it through, causing damage on the ground and dozens of injuries. Meantime, the U.S. and Israeli bombardment of Iran continues, with flames burning near Isfahan in Iran. That is the site of one of Iran's major nuclear reactors. But despite the bombardment coming at them, Iranian officials are seeming increasingly defiant. No talk of a ceasefire, as President Trump said Iran was looking for. Instead, the Iranian officials are saying they are prepared to continue this war as long as it takes. Listen here.
You know nothing of our vast and strategic capacities. Do not hope that you have destroyed our centers for producing strategic missiles, long-range offensive and precision-guided drones, modern air defense systems, electronic warfare systems, and our specialized equipment. Because of such assumptions, you will only further increase the depth of the swamp in which you have trapped yourselves.
And with Iranian proxy militias across the region getting increasingly involved in this, U.S. citizens are being warned not to travel to this region. The U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, for instance, telling all U.S. citizens they should get out of Iraq right now. Brian?
And they've said that before. Thanks so much, Jonathan. Because there's Iranian militias working in Iraq. One of the benefits of a defanged Iran will be the Iraqis having control of their own country, because they've infected the whole northern part.
Yeah, they have indeed. And, you know, President Trump, I thought what he said last night was so important. And one part that I think might have been overlooked, but it was important to me, was when he said, they made mistakes and I am correcting them, I believe referring to his predecessors. And if you really think about it, we all agree Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. But what did his predecessors do, and what is he having to undo? Obama, in his words, quote, "It is true, if Iran lives up to its commitments in the nuclear deal, they will gain access to roughly $56 billion. How did that work out? The $400 million in cash shipped over. It didn't work out. It was a failed nuclear deal. Then you move forward to Biden, $6 billion in unfrozen Iranian assets. And what happened? They unleashed their proxies, and October 7th happened. We've tried it that way. It didn't work. And President Trump is correcting the mistakes and trying to ensure the safety, not just of the United States, to your point, of the world.
Well, also, this is not his first time negotiating with Iran. Remember, this is a president that spent 4 years before this in the White House dealing with Iran. And then he had a 4-year break. And so it's not like we're restarting. The president understands what bad actors they are. And he's also urging the world, look, we don't actually need the oil coming from the Middle East, but many of the world does. And they should probably get some independence from them. Here's the president.
We're now totally independent of the Middle East, and yet we are there to help. We don't have to be there. We don't need their oil. We don't need anything they have, but we're there to help our allies. Many Americans have been concerned to see the recent rise in gasoline prices here at home. This short-term increase has been entirely the result of the Iranian regime launching deranged terror attacks against commercial oil tankers in neighboring countries that have nothing to do with the conflict. This is yet more proof that Iran can never be trusted with nuclear weapons. They will use them, and they will use them quickly. It would lead to decades of extortion, economic pain, and instability worse than we can ever imagine. The United States has never been better prepared economically to confront this threat.
So I think it's important to point out, we just showed like a minute of Iran's version of Baghdad Bob just spouting off about how great Iran's doing. We can't find any of their missiles. We have most of the stuff that's hidden. Just understand where they're coming from. The guy has lost 250 commanders, political as well as military. That's just in 2026, let alone the dozens that were killed in their beds by the Israelis and others called to a false meeting. A meeting that didn't exist, and then the Israelis blew them up. If anybody understands what's going on in there, it's Israel. And we just heard of a possible assassination on one of the foreign ministers and his family that took place. Because these guys can talk all they want, but the only reason the speaker is alive, as well as the foreign minister is alive, is because the Pakistanis asked us to ask the Israelis not to kill them because we had their coordinates down.
And the Ayatollah gone, like in day one, in 24 hours.
Who's famously said, death to America is not a slogan, it is a policy.
100%
Right.
it is.
That was the policy.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.